Hey everybody, this is Heidi Bohr. I'm art director here at Mighty, and I'm excited to be talking with you guys today about the design process. I'm pretty new to this platform, so if there's any issues, feel free to comment, and hopefully I will see those as we are broadcasting today. But I'm really excited today. We have a special guest who's also going to be joining me, Maya from U&I Boutique here in Mobile. She's going to be sharing from her perspective as the client, our partner in this work that we did with U&I Boutique, and I'm going to be sharing from the design side. So I'm going to go ahead and add in Maya. Welcome, Maya.
Hi, guys. Hi, Heidi. It's so good to see you.
It's great to see you too.
What a new norm we have, huh?
I know, it's really crazy. If you would have told me that I'd be doing this like 2 months ago, I would have been like, oh, that's interesting.
Same here, especially since I'm literally like such not a person that gets on the internet and does lives and stuff. But I have to say, this morning I was super excited to be doing this because it actually made me get out of my PJs and put on a full face of makeup, and I was like,
Yes,
good.
I'm totally with you. I know, I was like, I'm gonna wear something other than a t-shirt. So.
Right.
Yes, I know, it's great. It's really good to see you. It's good to have you on. I'm really excited to get to share with everybody about the design process that we went through for your company. And I'd love to hear just like, have you share with everybody a little bit about U&I and kind of what your goals were and are for the business, and just like how, that led into us helping you guys with the rebrand.
Absolutely. So I've been in business for about 8 years now. Started in Auburn, Alabama, expanded down to Foley, and then eventually opened my store in Mobile. So the idea behind U&I was very simple. It was all about the intimate relationship between the customer and the associates. And it was about creating this very natural flow that, felt comfortable, and we genuinely care about who our customer is, what our customer is shopping for, how we're making them feel, and kind of bringing two worlds together as far as selling and then, of course, the clothing aspect of it. So I guess we started this journey last year, and I think I was just at a point where it had been 7 years opening the store, and obviously the person I was at 26 is not the woman I am now. And I really wanted to kind of bring a new authentic side of U&I and how we started and what we're about. And what was interesting is that I had an idea of what I wanted it to be. And coming to see you guys and working, directly with you and Jared and everybody else, you guys were really able to bring together an identity for me. Which, again, you have ideas, they're all over the place. You want to try to put them together and kind of try to make a sense of what it's supposed to be. But when you guys interviewed me, which was probably my favorite part about, you genuinely try to find out who I was as an individual and then what my brand was about. And that was incredible because you really never stop and think about those things. So that was really cool. And then I remember one thing you kept going back to, and I guess I was referencing to it, was the idea of being perfectly imperfect. And you guys were able to do such a great job with, I remember doing the ampersand, you bringing out the paint and the paper, and I was like, what are they doing? And then painting it and realizing that every brush stroke had a different identity and a kind of a different idea behind it, made my company come full circle. In today's world where we live with such high impact as we are right now on electronics and social media and filters and trying to create an idea of what perfection should look like, that ampersand represents so much for you and I because it is perfectly imperfect. And kind of brought the whole story together with the exposed wood, it being rough and not really being finished, with the grass bringing back the nature and the natural aspect of who we are as humans. And so again, I really think you guys helped me it not just rebrand in the sense of the look, but like the core of who U&I is and who I am to U&I. Because I tend to give my company, it has its own personality, it has its own flair, and I think that comes from my customers. So that was something incredible. I don't think a lot of marketing companies can do that. I mean, they kind of grasp your idea of what you're supposed to be like or what you would want and need and desire, but you guys really kind of put the puzzle pieces for me in place to where it became something so much more powerful.
That's awesome. Yeah, it was such a fun process, and I think I love that you talked about the interview, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but yeah, I think it's really important to emphasize that, it's not just that we're creators, but we're also listeners. And we have to be able to hear what your vision is, and we're partners with you guys, to not just say this is what we think it should be, but to listen to you and your needs and your goals, and then try and implement that into a final solution.
Right. And I think with me, I always felt so comfortable. I think going into, Mighty and talking to, different individuals about what the brand is and what it's going to be and what I would like to see it as. One thing that I really loved about you guys is that you never undermined me or, pushed it to where I sometimes felt like, oh gosh, this isn't really what I want. It's not really my vision. I never went into a meeting thinking I was going to get overwhelmed. It was almost like you guys always went above and beyond to respect U&I and then me, and then always kind of, came with such genuine and just like an open heart and really trying to, again, put it together and make it something beautiful. And I think, as any company, you want to work with good people, but not only good people that genuinely care. And that's definitely you guys and Mighty in general, which has been an incredible, obviously, opportunity and process for me. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks for letting us be a part of your story as a business. And yeah, I'm excited to get to share more with everybody about what that process looked like and a little more in depth. And so I'll jump into that in just a second. But just for people who are watching, you guys feel free to comment. If you have questions along the way, we would love to answer those at the end, both me and Maya, what our different perspectives can share. So please feel free to comment, and we'll just go ahead and get started. I'm going to share a little bit now that we've kind of heard a little bit from Maya. I'm going to share, jump in and talk about the design process from my perspective. So you're going to see behind the curtain here for just a second. Okay, so I have just some slides to kind of help with the visual process of this, but I wanted to share just briefly the different components of the design process from our perspective. So we have just this first phase, which is kind of the concepting phase. And so, like Maya was saying, we met together, we talked a lot, we wanted to hear what your vision was, Maya, for the brand. And so then we kind of like went into this design cave, if you will, and started concepting. And so, Maya, you didn't hear from us for a good little bit while we were working on this process. Right. But yeah, so we jumped in here, and the first process of that, first step in that process looks like brainstorming. And so different ways that you can brainstorm. The first thing I like to do is just kind of ask questions. And a lot of these things will come out as we're talking with Maya or with whatever client or partner you're working with. Some things, like if you're not sure what questions to ask, it can be really helpful to ask these sort of like inquisitive who, what, when, where, why questions. And some examples of that might be like, who is your primary audience that you're trying to reach with this brand? What is the final like actual piece that you're going to be designing? When is it going to be released into the world? Where is it going to be shown? Because, your final piece is going to look really different if it's a local brand, if it's a national brand, or if it's an international brand. And then like, why are we doing this? What's the actual goal? And then how is that going to be accomplished? So those can be some questions. I have a lot more if anybody has, if wants to hear, but that can be a good starting place for brainstorming. And then just a few other thoughts with brainstorming that I like to think through for my own process is just the ideas of mind mapping, writing lists, and just writing in general. For me, I'm like a big external processor, so I would love to hear if any of you guys are designers and are internal processors. If your process looks different, feel free to comment. I would love to see kind of what that looks like for you guys. But for me, I kind of have to just get my head in the right space to understand what is the actual concept of this brand. So using a
Sorry to interrupt you. I was going to tell you something
it.
that just came to my mind too that you guys did is, you know, you showed up at the store on numerous occasions and did a walkthrough with me and then just kind of hung out to see our interaction with the customers, because that's one thing we talked about now, going from a physical location to online. How are we going to translate the personality of U&I with each interaction on the web as well as the packaging? So when you were just saying the mind mapping and the writing, I remember you always taking notes when you were in the store, I guess, with what you were observing and what you were seeing.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's really good to point out, is that it's like, you know, we can think and we can brainstorm what we think the brand should be, but if you're not listening to, you know, the person that you're creating the brand for, ultimately it's not going to be as successful. So I'm glad you pointed that out. I think that's important to like keep that in mind when you're in this brainstorming process, is like all of the things that you talked with your client about. So yeah, so if you're not familiar with mind mapping, I included a little example. This is one of the more extensive mind maps that I've ever made, but just starting, this was for a project that was about the idea of play and what does play mean. And so, you know, you're just starting with one idea or one concept and basically just letting your brain just dump on the page. You're not trying to edit your ideas as you go. You are just trying to get every idea out there, good, bad, whatever it is. And so the main goal of brainstorming is just leave no stone unturned, get all your ideas out there, whether they're good, bad, or ugly. So that's the first process in the concepting for us. Second process that I really like to use is thinking of the idea of, you know, if you've got a funnel, so we're starting out really wide with our initial brainstorming. And now we want to narrow down into like, what is the crux of this brand that you are working on? So what helps me, again, just since I think a lot with words, is to come up with 3 keywords that kind of, you know, symbolize the brand. So basically the idea here is that descriptive words have their own visual connotations or associations. So if you can come up with 3 descriptive words for your brand, then you already have all of these visual connotations just from those 3 words. And then you can pull that when you start to look at visual research. So we're just going to use an example to give you guys an idea. So say one of your descriptive words is strong. There's certain color associations with the word strong, you know, and your associations might be different than mine. But to me, I thought of bold colors, I thought of black, I thought like probably not pastels, maybe it could be, but then you also have certain design elements that you could think of from the word strong. So again, just initial thoughts from me were thick lines or shapes. Maybe you've got like gritty textures that you could use. And then the third was typography. You know, when you have typography, maybe you're using sans serif typefaces, maybe all caps or slab serif. You know, maybe in some cases you would use kind of some stronger looking serif faces, but you can see that just with one word, you already have a ton of design associations with color, design elements, and typography. And this was just quick examples. You could think of numerous more visual ideas from just this one word. So then once you have your 3 keywords, those will really help to inform your design decisions moving forward. And then the third process is to come up with a mood board. So like I said, words have visual connotations. So now is the time that you can jump into Pinterest, you can jump into Dribbble, you can look at, look at books, but that's where you can start to look at other people's work, and your 3 keywords can start to become this filter that you use for your design choices. And then, the things that you're looking at start to make more sense, because we're in a time where we've got the whole world of the internet, and it can be really overwhelming and really easy to just pick things that you like or things that are trendy. And so in order to have like a really successful concept-driven design, it's important that you come up with that concept before you start looking for visual inspiration. So with that being said, this is kind of our midpoint of the design process. And up till this point, Maya hadn't seen any of our work or our design thinking, but this is where we had our concept and our mood board presentation with you, Maya. So I would love to hear just, I'll briefly share with you guys what our 3 keywords and our mood board were. And then after I do that, if Maya, you'd be willing to share your thoughts during and before this presentation. But the 3 kind of key ideas, they weren't necessarily 3 words, because there's obviously 6 words here, but just from our conversation with you, Maya, I just remember thinking like you really wanted to be different and set apart from other boutiques, and you really were focused on empowering women and making them feel like the best that they could be, and really just their true identity. And so we really wanted to come up with these words that maybe kind of seem like they're contrasting, but really they go together. And so we chose pretty and bold, trendy and polished, feminine and empowered. And then it just worked so nicely because, your business name is connected with the ampersand. So it was just this idea of the relationships, even with the words. And then we also showed our mood board. And so our mood board was very much inspired by these words, So tell us, Maya, from your perspective, what was kind of that waiting period while we were in sort of our like design cave? Like, what was that like for you to wait and then for this presentation day to come?
So I had obviously worked with somebody previously, and it was, I guess I was throwing all these things at you guys. You had all these questions and I was able to answer them, but I didn't quite, I wasn't able to quite pinpoint what I wanted the rebrand to look like. So the more I talked, I know obviously you guys listened, and then you came up with this mood board, and it was almost like you guys had taken that part of my brain and slapped it on the board in front of me, because everything I saw was just such an incredible representation, again, not only of myself, but really of you and I. Again, the name stands for itself. It's you and I, meaning there's always 2 individuals that are included. And you guys, what you did is just you created such balance between those key points that you use, the bold and the polished and the empowering and the feminine, because those were all really, really important to me. I mean, pretty, yes, we want to make our customer feel absolutely beautiful, but at the same time, we do want them to be bold and we want them to stay true to themselves. And yes, they are trendy. We're constantly coloring outside the color box, because we really want to push the trend where it's not just the typical, everyday wear, but you really kind of push yourself and explore, in different areas when it comes to fashion. And then we still want you to be polished. We want you to look put together. And then the feminine empowered, I think that was the strongest one for me, is because I feel like as women, sometimes we undermine the power that we possess and how truly how powerful we really are and how to what extent we can go. And I love that, the feminine and empowered, because those two things can go very well together. You can be extremely feminine and you can be extremely successful and powerful, and you can do that for other women as well. So I love, I mean, everything you guys presented, it was literally taken out of my head and put together so well, like the color combinations, the messages, the pictures themselves. I mean, obviously the design was so incredible, but really the packaging for me, how I tend to think I make my customers feel, as well as how my associates make our customers feel, is one thing that I absolutely love. And I went live, I guess 2 weeks ago, as we started the process of transitioning to do only online. And I was thinking, in a world where we're uncertain, and uncertainty drives fear, obviously. I was thinking our packaging, when it got delivered to somebody and they saw the packaging, they would see, hey girl, this, you're gonna rock this, or, waiting for compliment. Like, it's just, I feel like those were such empowering words, where immediately when you saw that, you thought, oh, this is gonna make me feel better. And even if you were just gonna wear it around the house, like, I kept thinking, not because obviously I love my brand, but I kept thinking, if I was ordering something and that was being delivered to my house, even for that brief moment, I would feel good, inside. And so it's really incredible. I mean, what you guys did, you thought about everything down to the detail of the execution of what U&I was going to deliver, which is obviously so impressive.
That's so awesome. Yeah, it was a really fun process to have. And I will note too, with the mood board, I remember this was actually what I'm showing here on the screen is our refined mood board. And, during that process, I remember there were maybe 1 or 2 images where you said, this doesn't feel quite right to our brand. Maybe it was a type treatment, or I don't remember exactly what it was. But I just remember this was a really helpful meeting, because you need to kind of check in with your people that you're representing, and just making sure that you're representing them well. And I think, like, even though 95% of it was on the mark, it was really good to get your feedback and hear, like, okay, like, we'll not go in that specific direction.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, so that's so good. And I mean, I love too that you're saying that the packaging has, really stood, I mean, and maybe even is more meaningful now during this time. So that's really encouraging to hear that the brand is just really continuing to succeed. And
even for everybody that doesn't know, but like, when we're packaging, we have a clear ampersand that goes on the actual package as we're putting the item together. And I thought, as somebody's receiving it, again, maybe I'm putting too much sentiment on it, because to me, obviously, it means so much. But when they're opening it, it's the and sign, which to me symbolized everybody together. We're in this, So again, those small touches that I maybe wouldn't have even paid attention to before are becoming so much meaningful now. Again, in a time when we are driven by uncertainty and fear, it's becoming so much more powerful, to really just understand that we are in this together. And that's, basically the brand U&I. It's all about togetherness, community, making people come together and really appreciate one another.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, and maybe I'll show some pictures of the packaging and some of the other things toward the end here. But yeah, so from here, I'm just jumping back into the design side of things. We finished up the concepting phase, so now we're jumping back into the execution phase, which is kind of the second phase of our design process. And kind of went back into the design cave. So from the mood board, we move into sketching and iterating. And, for sketching, we just drew a ton of sketches. And truth be told, we were sketching like, a little bit more at the beginning too, just as ideas came to us. But this is where we really just were pencil to paper a lot. And we drew so many ampersands because we knew that that was so important and represented the relationship side. We really wanted that to feel unique and just have the right character and the right feel for your brand. So, I mean, I would just say anyone who's watching, who's, a designer, I would just really say and emphasize and want to encourage myself in this too, just to keep sketching. It's really easy for me too, to feel the pull to just go straight to the computer. But honestly, I think the importance of sketching is that you can just get ideas out there quickly. And sometimes, if we go straight to the computer and we spend all this time trying to build this idea that we have in our head, then we can really easily get attached to these like bad ideas just because we spent a lot of time on them. So just get your ideas out quick on paper. And you'll see with some of these pictures that I really like to use tracing paper as well. So I'll do my sketches in my sketchbook or on just regular paper. And then I'll like take a little piece of tracing paper and draw on top of it and try and refine it some more. Or maybe even print things out from the computer and then draw on top of them to edit them. So that's kind of where this process of iterating comes in, where we're sketching on paper and then we, see something that's kind of working, put it on the computer, and then, maybe it's not quite working there. So we print it out and sketch some more. And it's just this process where you're just trying to figure out what's working. You're going to have messy art boards. This is my working file from this project. So yeah, I'm a big believer in just copying your work, pasting it, making little tweaks. Don't just stop at like good enough. Really push to refine and push to see, even if something's good, maybe see how far you can push it. If you can push it too far, then you know that you can dial it back from there. But, print things out, put it up on the wall. We did a lot of that with this project where we printed things out and we got other people's perspectives. And really around this time, I think, was when we kind of started playing with the idea of the hand-drawn ampersand. And I remember Julianne Patterson, who's another designer at Mighty, and I were working on this project together, and we were, trying to make this work on Illustrator. And it's just funny that sometimes we try and make things look hand done on the computer, but really, ultimately we ended up just getting some paint out and starting to make our own brush strokes. And the reason why I have this picture in here is because this goes back to our mood board. And I remember Maya, during the presentation, you like really resonated with this design. And I wondered if you could share just a little bit with everybody, like why you really were drawn to this particular design with the brush stroke.
Well, I think, like I was saying in the beginning, it was truly the whole idea behind it kept coming together as it's perfectly imperfect. So with the brush strokes, it was, every time I drew it, it was different. It came out, skinnier or thicker or maybe a little bit more crooked. And that really represents us as humans in general, everybody is beautiful in their own way. There is not such a thing as, being a certain way to be more pretty or being another way to be less pretty. It's just in general, everybody's beautiful and we're all created so differently. And I think when you guys, literally, I remember sitting there and you brought out the brushes and the paper and I was like, what are we doing here? Like, I'm so confused. Like, why? I'm not going to lie, for a second, I was like, come on, you guys are supposed to be the experts. Like, why are you making this right now? I have terrible handwriting and I am not an artist. But, the more we did that, the more I felt like, wow, this is really a part of me. And it was so important because you obviously always want to leave, sprinkle a little bit of yourself wherever you go. And this was incredible because it was literally my handwriting, again, putting things together, the U and the I, putting that together with the ampersand. And And as you can tell right here, I mean, every single time it was different. And I think that's really what made it so special is you guys got the essence of who I am, what I believe. Again, also getting away from the idea of things having to be perfectly done a certain way with certain lines and because we do live in a world where I feel like more than ever the emphasis is on this like grand picture of what you're supposed to look like, your makeup, your hair, your nails, so as women. And I think this was just so neat because it was absolutely beautiful on its own without having to be redefined or anything having to be added to it. So it was just super cool for me.
Yeah. And I mean, and I'll just say this too, I mean, we wouldn't have done that for just any brand or any person. I think this was a really unique solution to you and to your brand because, the ampersands on the last page were the ones that I had done just for practice and to kind of see like how things would sort of look mocked up. But I mean, we were thinking it was so appropriate that this was your creation and you're an artist as well, maybe not a graphic designer, but you create beautiful things with your store and you help others, see the beauty in themselves. And so, you're quite a visionary yourself. And so I think it was just really appropriate for you to have your own signature on your brand. So yeah, like I said, we wouldn't necessarily do that for everybody, but it really was appropriate and worked so well for yours. And honestly, I liked your ampersands better than mine. So.
I guess, it came in the part of the love and appreciation and again, bringing the you and I together. It was, for me, it was incredible because I remember I cried. I mean, I broke down in the office and I'm sure everybody was like, whoa, she's one of those clients. But, to create a relationship, again, I turned this over to you guys to rebrand and almost kind of like mature my brand because at this point I had matured. I had become a mother and, you have a different outlook on the world. And you guys really brought it together. And I mean, I know I keep complimenting. It's just that I work with people every single day. Maybe not in the past few weeks, but most days I'm surrounded with nothing but people, whether it be my customer, my vendors, my associates. So, to have somebody that just gets you so well and really understand the importance of what the message you're trying to send out to the world, that's what Mighty did for us. And that's what Mighty did for you and I. It did bring the, again, not so polished, yet trendy aspect to my brand, which was the ampersand. I always go back to it. It kind of solidified the brand itself and what it was going to become and what direction it was going to go in.
Yeah. It's so good. Yeah. And I mean, this isn't even the final part. So we'll just keep showing people. So finally, let's just go into it. So the final step in the execution process was the presentation and the production of everything. So our final logo was, Maya's signature ampersand and, the contrast of the bold type and just that more human ampersand, the softness, the imperfectly perfect ampersand. So it was really cool to have. I don't think we've ever had something like that where a client had their own little signature. And like I said, it wouldn't work for everybody, but I think it was perfect for you guys. So
literally perfect.
So then from the logo standpoint, we did present you with two options. So do you have any additional thoughts on, I know we've talked a lot about the logo, so it's okay if you don't have additional thoughts, but do you have any additional thoughts on why you chose this one over the other that we presented you with?
I don't know. It just felt organic. I was connected with it. I mean, it just again, represented everything I wanted the brand to grow into. And especially now, we just got our new sign up. So it's against the wood, again, unfinished, and it's very, it looks very raw and natural. Yeah, there it is. So to me, it just, when you saw that, I think it was a good balance. It was just a good balance to U&I BTQ. I don't know. It just genuinely just felt so organic. Like I saw it and I just felt connected with it. And I'm so glad we chose to go with that. Even the color, I know you guys had suggested we can change the color, whatever. If we're doing, October for breast cancer awareness, we can change the ampersand to pink and other events. But this was just U&I. I mean, it belonged within the store, and it belonged to represent who the brand is. So
that's awesome.
It turned out amazing.
Yeah. It was such a fun process with you guys. And, and then we're continuing to, you guys are continuing to grow. You guys are continuing to create new things. So, part of the process was creating this brand standards guide for you guys. And in the process, we, our copywriter, Amanda, wrote a mantra for you guys. So we posted that on our Instagram, I think yesterday.
Yeah.
And so that was really fun to think through and just try and embody who you guys are. And then signage, of course, then also the packaging that you referenced earlier was really a lot of fun to put together, just because we wanted it to be something that people were excited to get in the mail. And we were just so excited you guys were on board for like getting custom packing tape and stuff like that. So
I think it's, in the end, it's really the small details that matter. I feel like that's when you really, as a brand, you want to be recognized, obviously. And I feel like, we're not there yet. We're headed in that direction. But to have something that really stands out, and to me, again, these little sayings, between those two colors, they're so powerful. Really, when you're getting a package and immediately before you even open the package, I feel like we're really communicating with the way we're trying to make our customers feel. And then you open it and there's, hello, gorgeous, like, hello. Thank you for calling me gorgeous. And that's really how we interact with our customer, so that you guys were able to get the essence of just even those small details that maybe to some people they're like, okay, what's so special? But to us, this is really who we are, the essence of U&I and how we interact with our customers. And even down to the tags themselves, like they're just a perfect balance. So yeah, we love, obviously, we're obsessed with all of it, and we use it on a daily basis, especially more so than ever now with us being just online. We can really see when people are tagging our pictures, they're definitely including the packaging as well as the cards, and kind of saying, oh, look, this is what they're doing, which I think is so cool. So I genuinely try to write every single one of those Hello Gorgeous cards. I have the world's worst handwriting, but I try to put my own touch on it. So I want my customers to feel like there's always a tiny little part of me that's being sent out with each package, with each item. So if you've ever received anything from us, you would know that you barely can read the card, but it's me. I'm writing it. I'm actually using my handwriting to write it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. I think that really, does set you guys apart, that you care about those details and care about connecting with your customers and wanting them to feel, empowered, even just through the words and through the packaging. I think is really cool.
Absolutely. You guys did it, you guys thought, again, down to the last detail of how this needed to look. I don't know if whoever is watching, if you can see, but on the tape, it is actually all the different ampersands that I did. That's what you guys incorporated, which is so cool, because again, it's the whole idea of being perfectly imperfect. They're all perfect in their own way. There's no right or wrong.
Yeah. And even kind of like, I remember you saying it and us thinking that it represented, the different, you know, the beautiful differences that
Right.
we have as women. And so I thought that was
Absolutely.
really cool.
Because again, in the world we live in, you know, I feel like society has put up the idea of what we need to look like to be accepted and feel a certain way, but then that's nonsense. I mean, who makes that up? Who determines what you are supposed to look like? What, you know, what hair color, what eye color, what skin color, what weight, what height. So, you know, this was something that was very important to me because again, we genuinely tried to cater to everybody. And I know sometimes we tend to be looked at as the younger brand. It's just that to me, I don't see age in clothing. I mean, of course, there's a way to be appropriate, you know, but at the same time, lately more than ever, I've been using Jennifer Lopez as the reference. You know, I mean, she's 51 years old. My God, you know. So, and I want to make sure that we acknowledge that and respect that and appreciate it and are able to mimic that, you know, what is age really? You know, I mean, again, I'm not saying that you should dress like Jennifer Lopez. By God, if I had her body, I would. But just the idea of what does clothing mean, you know? And you guys really, again, capture that with the ampersand and everything around it. Is that, you know, it doesn't have to be just one certain way. It can be many, many ways, and those many, many ways are beautiful. That was really cool.
Yeah. That's so awesome. Yeah, and the final piece that I had to show was just the website. So now that you guys have moved into you know, online and just the store is no longer open for the moment, how has that looked for you guys? Are you you know, how has that do you see that goal still being fulfilled even in this kind of crazy time?
Absolutely. So, you know, the website is amazing. Our pictures, unfortunately, with us not being able to use professional photographers because we don't want anybody in the store other than like my manager and I, we kind of had to just improvise and just do whatever we could with what we had. So, you know, of course, would I want the pictures to look better like this one in particular? Yes, but this was done by our professional photographer that works with us. And unfortunately, right now, we're unable to go outside and create these beautiful, you know, art pieces that really resonate and people are able to appreciate. But all in all, I am so grateful that we had a platform that we could resort to and immediately take action and say, okay, we're going to put every single piece of clothing we have in the store online. Because before, you know, we got separate inventory that we would use for online as well as in store. And it can be really hard because we just haven't worked up our website to the point where, you know, we're getting that kind of volume. My daughter is coming out. Yes, baby. Okay, sounds good. Get some sanitizer. She's smart. All about the germs. But really just, you know, having this incredible platform to be able to immediately jump on and build upon it and put the products out there and be able to, you know, have it ready for our customers. It's been an incredible thing, you know, because again, I think, you know, we started this journey last year and then kind of towards the summer, we were finished with this. And now obviously going to this pandemic and having such a tool, it's been a game changer for us. Being able to still be there for our customers. And again, I think clothing can make you feel all kinds of ways. For some people, it is truly about creating, you know, this image of who they want to be, or being creative, having a creative outlet. So for us now, like, it's so important more than ever to be able to be there for our customers. Like even with small trinkets, or, you know, I always make sure that I always include something in them just to say, hey, you know, we're thinking about you. And again, we're in this together and we're going to get through this. I think it's really cool because I think it takes us back to the whole idea of being there for each other. And I don't think if we would have not had this website, it would have really been another major upset and setback for us.
Yeah.
As far as trying to get things kind of together and get them going.
Yeah. I'm so glad.
If you are brick and mortar, Whether you're doing it yourself, I wouldn't have done this myself because I think I appreciated the process so much more. And again, you guys being able to create something that I love and look at and I'm so proud of, get with the marketing company. Obviously, Mighty's available nationwide, and get them to really help you, whether it's free branding or creating a website or doing advertisement. It's more than ever right now. It is so important because regardless of how quickly this will come to an end, this pandemic, it's also teaching us that we need to be prepared for the future.
Yeah.
And this is really the time to kind of do your due diligence and get online and stop making excuses why you're not doing it.
Sorry, thanks. No, that's great. Thanks for making the selling it for us. No,
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
I mean, genuinely, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, God, whatever we're able to sell, whatever profit we're able to flip on there, I'm so grateful for. I mean, for every single order that comes through, I'm immediately on it. I'm immediately shipping it, packaging it, getting it ready, because it really also makes you realize that for a lot of companies, it is very detrimental right now. They just have not had that platform. And I mean, we all, I think intellectually, we're like, yeah, this is a website, we can do it, but it is a lot of work. Let me tell you, I know that because I went into those meetings with you guys and, listening to the graphic designers and to the developer and everything in between. It's a lot. It really is a lot, and it can be overwhelming, especially if you don't know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I feel like that again, it's just so good and so important to have that partnership because it's like you have insights that we don't have because you're in your business every day. And so I think just the give and take and the being able to listen to each other in the process was just so good. So we loved getting to do it with you guys. And I think this whole thing, like you said, it's teaching us how important and how powerful the digital realm is for business and how it can help and bring people together, even though everyone is physically apart.
Right. Well, even this conversation, I feel like whoever tunes in or will watch it later, they're going to understand that there's nothing more powerful than human connection.
Mm-hmm.
And again, through Mighty, you guys were able to do everything and more than I could have ever asked for as far as a marketing agency. I mean, from the process of design to bringing it to life and really kind of giving me the finished product. Again, I highly encourage anybody out there that's a small business, a large corporation. I mean, really, truly find somebody that you feel connected with more than just a business aspect, because the business aspect turns into something so much bigger. And for me, it was truly the relationship and knowing that you guys cared for my brand just as much as I cared. So for anybody watching, again, I don't mean to just advertise for Mighty, but I'm so
I don't mind.
Grateful for everything you guys have done for U&I and for me personally. So I would highly, highly recommend, do some research, understand. I know some people might get scared with spending that kind of money, but I believe that it's worth every penny that you put into it. Because again, just like you said, I might know the back end of it because I'm in the store, but when it comes to stuff that I'm absolutely clueless about, when it comes to the website development, etc., that's where you guys really stepped up and stepped in and just did it, So So again, I think more than ever, it's so important to get with the marketing company. Like, don't wait, reach out today, get on the phone, shoot an email, just try to kind of come up with the game plan of what your next step is.
Yeah. Maya, I have another question for you, but before I do, I was just going to say, if anybody's watching and you guys have any questions just about anything that we've covered or maybe anything that we haven't covered, please feel free to comment with those, and we'll do our best to answer them. But yeah, for me or for Maya, just about the process, feel free to comment with that. But while we might be waiting for people to do that, Maya, just like off of what you were saying, do you feel like were there any maybe fears or like anxieties that you had, thinking about rebranding your business? Because I mean, you were a very successful business, you know, when we stepped in, but did you have any fears, and, you know, and then maybe how were those, you know, put to rest, or
Absolutely. I mean, I think the initial fear was obviously going into any kind of relationship, whether it be a marketing relationship, a personal relationship, friendship, you know, you have the fear of, are you compatible? Will you be able to understand? You know, there's a difference between understanding and communicating, because I think a lot of people can communicate, but to understand is exactly what you had mentioned, is listening, listening to what I'm trying to communicate. And, you know, I mean, that was the initial scare, is like, you know, I'm rebranding. Why am I rebranding? What is the importance of rebranding? And just like anything in life, everything has a shelf life. I mean, we want to rebrand, we want to be able to grow, because as an individual, I'm maturing, and so is my business. So it was really important, again, to bring something new to the table, something maybe that was more powerful than before, and that you guys believed I could become more than I believed I could, you know? And I think that was really important. Obviously, again, the fear is, yes, will we be able to communicate? Will we be able to understand each other? How will you guys be able to execute my full vision? But you guys did. I mean, you really listened. Like I said, you showed up at the store, you would take notes. I mean, numerous times we talked about the packaging. You showed up again, you wanted to explain how it would be packaged, what the final image would look like. And I think those were really, really powerful things, because to me, it showed that you really genuinely cared about how this turned out. It wasn't just about finishing a project, moving on to the next. It was finishing a project with the perfect execution of, is the client happy? Am I happy? Will I love it? You know, and there was not one single time when I looked at something and said, oh my God, they completely went over my head. They have no idea who I am, you know. And I think, again, it had a lot to do with, you guys asked a lot of questions. And you made me talk. Obviously, I don't have a problem talking, but you made me talk, and you made me, you know. And so cool, because in the beginning I told you, when I went back and I looked at the ampersand and the rebrand of U&I, it really kind of made me realize that we did a lot of, you presented something, and then I did a lot of backtracking of trying to pull it all together and making myself understand that we did do the beautiful with the bold and etc. So it's really incredible. I mean, again, I think as a marketing company, you guys hit the nail on the head, and just, it came together so well.
That's awesome. I'm so glad. I mean, we had a lot of fun doing it. It's awesome.
Awesome.
Was there anything else you wanted to share from your perspective? Or I haven't seen any questions come in specifically, but you know, if people have questions later, you can feel free to comment and we can answer them. Just
absolutely. Or I mean, again, people can comment, you know, me, if you have any questions as far as, you know, what I was looking for and who I wanted to work with versus, you know, why did I choose Mighty, you know? And I mean, feel free. Again, I know it can be scary. It's overwhelming, rebranding in general, and then also just, creating. I mean, through this merger and through everything we're going through, some people are going to say, you know what, maybe I do want to start my own business. And I mean, that itself, you need to get it off the ground, and it's where you guys step in and are able to kind of bring ideas together and, you know, help people out. So again, I would highly encourage you, if you are a small business, reach out. I know you guys are available. Like, it doesn't even have to be something where you have to be hired on. If people have questions and they're just not certain about how to do things or how to go about something, I feel like you guys will be there to answer it, and I would be more than happy to help anybody with any kind of questions they might have.
Thanks, Maya. I just saw Alyssa Wright asked a question about the ampersand. So if I'm understanding your question correctly, you're asking how did you transfer the painted brushstroke into digital form? So that's a really good question. So what I did for this particular project, you could use a scanner, but I just took a picture on my phone of the actual painting and tried to just get it in a good light where I wasn't casting any shadows on the paper. And then I airdropped those pictures to my computer. And I used a program called Coco Trace, which is not really a very official program, but I have found it actually works a lot better than Adobe Illustrator Live Trace. But you can also use Live Trace, and just make sure when when you're opening up Live Trace in Adobe Illustrator to open up your advanced settings and just like kind of mess with the different settings that are available there. To get the look that you want, you can check a little box that says you can preview what it'll look like, but you want to get as much detail as possible. And I found that the Coco Trace little app actually helps get the detail really, really nice. So.
And again, if you're wondering, this is why I use Mighty, because she just spoke French and I had no idea what
That's awesome. That's great. You just paint the ampersands and we'll put them on the computer for you. Really great.
Well,
does that answer your question, Alyssa? Awesome. Okay. Cool. Does anybody else have any questions? Otherwise, feel free to comment there, and then we'll comment back later once we've left. But thank you so much for your time, Maya. We really appreciate you jumping on with us today. It was really valuable to hear your opinion, and it was just good to see you.
Good to see you too, Heidi. I hope when all this mess is over, we'll see each other more frequently. And yes. Best to all. Hopefully, this is all passing over soon.
Yes. Yeah, it was good to be on here with everybody. And yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.